Welcome to the Wally Show Aftercast, all the stuff we did not get to during the course of the show today. You have somebody that you've known for quite some time, and sometimes they still surprise you. Betty Lou, known her for 17 years, and really not into politics much, and kind of stays away from all that stuff where I like to consume it more. I have been surprised, though, at how involved you are with the shooting, the attempted assassination of President Trump, former President Trump, because like you were like, oh, hey, turn this up, and you came in, we were talking about it this morning and stuff. You really have consumed a decent amount of this. Why do you think that is? What is it about it that is connecting with you?
I think you will admit that when it comes to, sadly, we have a lot of these shootings, and they're trying to do the background on who the person is, why it happened, all that kind of stuff. I'm all in.
You're fascinated by that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what they were doing this morning. They were doing that same thing with the shooter. And so I was interested to know, like, at 20 years old, how can you have that much anger?
Yeah.
You know, like, you just are 20 years old. It doesn't make sense. And then I feel like there's something going on that we don't know about, especially when it comes to how long he was up there on the roof and things like that. And so I'm just very intrigued by it all.
It's like there are psychological thriller elements to the situation.
But it's real life.
Because a debate is just words and all that. This has action tied to it, a little bit of mystery tied to it.
The thing about this is, though, too, is this guy made a life and death decision that day for multiple people. One, he tried to for President Trump. He made a life and death decision for a father and a firefighter, and for himself ultimately too. And it is sad. Like, you're like, what led you to that place? And I know we always want to know, but I don't think some things you never will know, because somebody's just broken in a way that we don't understand because we're not broken in that way, and we'll never know. But you want so badly to go, well,
I just want to know what's going on about with the Secret Service or whoever
That's
it was.
The one that the more that starts to come out, and they're calling, like some people are calling for the resignation of the head of the Secret Service, and the lady said, "Oh, I'm not stepping down, but she's going to get called before Congress and stuff." And that was what's really interesting to me, is because that one sniper that took the guy out, he was focused on that roof. Like, he didn't just spin around and get the guy. Like, he was on it. And there are new reports saying that the Secret Service were well aware that guy was on the roof for 30 minutes. Like, they knew, like, local police had gone, and one guy had even confronted him and then retreated. So they're all on radios. They know there's something going on. And why the shot wasn't taken earlier, I have no idea. Like, I had heard that he was told he was not allowed to take a shot. And were you waiting for someone to engage first and then you engage? I don't know. And I didn't think that was the rules of engagement when it came to the president. Like, I thought they had clear, if there's a perceived threat, they can act.
Yeah, or that if it's not the person taking the shot, like that people would climb the building to tackle this guy or to take away his weapon. It's just a weird story. And so interesting.
On this level, and I try not to be too conspiracy minded, but things get always whitewashed and hidden and things like that. And I know that there will be an element of that with this. It's human nature. And also, too, the things that happen inside of the government, there are some things that go on to keep this peace that they can't tell the public at large. I've made peace with that there are things that I'm not going to know and that I shouldn't know, probably.
Like aliens.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of that, I saw that movie, Fly Me to the Moon.
Oh, that's out.
Yeah, with Channing Tatum and what is her name?
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson. Her husband is Colin Jost from SNL.
Oh, he is,
you know that, right?
Yeah.
That does the Weekend Update with Michael. And really funny. He's actually in the movie. He has like a small part in the movie, too.
I like him.
And I was really surprised. It was good. I liked it. It's a total straight up rom-com. You're trying to wonder what parts of it were based in a true story and what weren't. But there's one massive glaring error in the plot point. I don't want to give it away, but it's like it was so implausible that you're like, well, this... Okay, now, fortunately, it comes at the end of the movie, because if it had come earlier, I would have been like, I'm out. Because I don't mind having the suspension of disbelief, like for certain movies, but it's got to be somewhat plausible to keep me engaged in it.
Was it meant not to be plausible?
No, it was meant to be a big plot point
Really?
that is the big twist on what has to happen to make this whole thing come together. And there is negative 0.0 chance that could have gone down this way that they do it. And so I'm like, that's where I look at things. As someone who used to write television shows and things like that and cartoons, like I think as a writer, and I'm always like, how did somebody not go, yeah, this is dumb. Like, we got to find another twist in this. We can find something else. We're creative.
I don't know.
It was so bad. It almost ruined the movie for me, but Channing Tatum saved it. He was actually really, really good in this. And surprise, Ray Romano, fantastic in this too. So yeah,
I didn't know he was in it.
Yeah, so I actually was really pleasantly surprised at this. We kind of went on a whim because I got home a little early, so we were like, oh, we have the A-list thing still, so we're like, yeah, let's go. And so I was glad that I went and saw it. That was good. One thing I want to get back to, when Betty came in today, you were talking about Matt Walsh and his take on the 3 women Secret Service agents who there are a lot of memes about them, like the one not being able to holster her gun, the other doing circles, one putting her glasses on, and the one short one protecting the president. And he had said what, Lady Rock?
He said that a highly capable man was passed up just so they could allow women into that position. He said there should never be a moment where a woman is protecting a man. And in this instance, they were. You know, he even said, you know, women are typically shorter, smaller.
And that was
thinner.
the case. When you see the girl standing in front of the president, she doesn't cover him up like the taller guys would. Mm-hmm. But your take on this, I was surprised because a lot of people would say that's a very Neanderthal, antiquated viewpoint that women can do anything men can do. And you actually sided with him. I was surprised.
No, I do agree. I think that women aren't meant to protect men. Of course, you could say, well, what if he's at gunpoint or what if we're getting... Yeah, there are those outliers. I'm not saying like...
But as a job...
right. Yeah, I just don't... It doesn't make sense. It seems like they were just saying we want it to look like women are capable and can do this.
Right.
And I would say... Yes, women are capable human beings. We
Absolutely.
are capable of things that men can't do.
Yep.
And the same for men with women.
Yep. But we don't want to see that anymore. We deny that. And that's been the problem.
I think the reason that, because I started reading the comments on Matt Walsh's post, and a lot of women agreed, but then there were some, of course, that were like highly offended by what he had to say. But I think that a big part of it is that women are... ogled. Was that the word?
Ogled, yeah.
Ogled. Oh. And so we are told that our worth is tied in how we look. Well, men can take advantage of women because we tend to be smaller. And if you are constantly telling one group of people that they aren't as big or as good as another group of people, then that bigger person can take advantage. And I think a lot of women have dealt with sexual harassment, abuse, and they've been put in situations where they wanted to be protected, but it backfired on them. And the people that were supposed to protect them actually took advantage of them. And so because of that hurt or that trauma, they feel like they need to prove themselves and take up for themselves, sadly. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's the truth for these women that were protecting Trump, but I'm saying that they might have been raised in a situation where they had to be the man in their own situation. Maybe they were raised without a dad. I don't know. I'm just saying that there are women that might feel like they need to be on the same level as a man because they're afraid they'll get taken advantage of again.
I think there's a natural part. Anytime you tell anyone that they are less than, they want to prove you wrong, whether you're a man or a woman. So I think there's an element of that. And I think that there is an element of women have felt, I guess you could look at minorities, of any sort in any situation. They're like, well, you're telling me I can't do this. I should be able to do this. And so then you look at, how do we make the playing field even? But there are certain things that maybe the playing field shouldn't be even on when it comes to like physicality, and life and death. And so I think that's the point that Matt Walsh is making. He's not a misogynist, but I think he's just saying like that this is a job that has a certain set of criteria. The best way I can explain it is me saying I should have the right to play in the NBA. I do, but I can't cut it. Like I'm 5'6", all of 5'6". The shortest person like now is probably not even under 6 foot. There was one guy, Spud Webb, that used to play for the Atlanta Falcons back in the day, or Atlanta, whoever they were, back in the day. And he was like such the exception. So like I could say, well, I should be allowed to play in the NBA. I should deserve this. But my height precludes me from doing that job well. Mm-hmm. And so I'm never going to be selected for that job. Other people are going to be selected where I won't. And I think Walsh's point is it's kind of like that. You're setting aside those rules. It's like drafting me to be equal and fair versus drafting somebody that has the skill set for that job.
I'll say two things. I think that there's women that I think most women want to be taken care of. Most women want to. I wouldn't say the word submit. That has a negative connotation to it. But I think most women don't feel like they need to protect men, but they've been taken advantage of in the past. And so life has taught them they need to man up because the men in their lives have hurt them in some way, or they've just proven themselves incapable. So if they can't do it, women can do it.
Yeah.
I'll say that. And then I'll say, too, that it's kind of like with the transgender situation with sports. This one guy, I forget his name, he identifies as a woman, and so he swims with the women. And then he beats them all.
Crazy.
And it's like, just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
And I think that's the same for these women. Just because you can might not mean that you should.
Well, I think
it's not that you're less than.
Right, yeah. Like you saying that a lot of women want to feel safe. If you ask women about getting married, or finding a mate, a lot of them they want someone that's going to provide and make them feel safe. Like, and those aren't bad things. I think we kind of vilified those and we said, well, women should be able to take care of themselves, make themselves feel safe, provide for themselves. And I understand that.
And I agree.
Right. But
to some degree.
Yeah, but to some degree. But my point is, along the lines of what you're saying, we are wired a certain way. And that's what we keep trying to deny, that we were wired in a way that God wired us. And so the modern humanism is trying to destroy that and say, well, no, you're not wired that way. You can be whatever you want to be. And so you're going against who you are, who God created you to be. And so no wonder there's this paradox inside of a lot of people, because you're trying to be something that you're not designed to be. And I think that plays itself out in a lot of different areas.
I think we're seeing just what you've talked about, where you swing so far one way, you swing another. Yeah. And that's where, back in the day, women weren't even allowed to vote.
Oh, it's crazy. Absolutely.
They were seen as a possession for their husband.
Oh, it's crazy.
Couldn't own land, couldn't do anything. And so that was so far to one side. Now we're seeing it so far to the other side. And
you still have an element of that too, like in churches, where there was some church split I read about recently where, or maybe you were telling me about this, where women pastors caused a split in the church. Like this church was like, you cannot have any women pastors. We're not going to go there.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and so they split the church. And so I know we have women that are called pastors. In my church, we have people that are called pastors that I don't think should be called pastors unless they have a divinity degree. But you have the children's pastor, the such pastor. I don't think that that's the right term for people personally. But if they have an advanced degree, whether you're a man or a woman in divinity, absolutely, then label them that. But I think that that's one of those things that I have no problem when we have this lady Kelly Mentor. She's speaks awesome. And she'll fill in for Jeff, and I love her insight, because I look at her as someone that knows more about the Bible than I do, and she's teaching, and I'm learning. It would be weird for me, though. I think it would be weird for my wife. I think if we went to a church where the lead pastor was a woman, I don't think my wife would like that.
Why do you think that on her behalf?
Because I think she is kind of old school or wired, like Betty is saying, like you want a man to be a spiritual head of your house. You want that to be the same thing in the church. And I'm not even saying that's right. I'm just saying I think that that's where she would land. It would be weird for me at first too, I think. But that's history as well, that's predicating that.
Well, and I'll say too that me speaking as a woman at 39, single, all that stuff, my goal in life growing up was not, I want to work.
Right.
I want to work for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
No, that's not my goal.
Same.
You know?
Me either.
I mean, I think most girls are raised to, you want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to be taken care of.
Right.
But we live in a broken world where you got God taking care of you and you got to carry the rest.
Sure.
I don't have a man that's going to take care of the things. And so when you live in a broken world where no one is looking out for you, you do have to man up. And while you may watch your other friends be able to stay home and take care of the kids, not saying that you have it easy, I'm not saying that, but women are sometimes forced to do things that men were
you have a different set of circumstances.
Because if I didn't, then I would be, to quote Pride and Prejudice, a burden to my parents.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to go and do things for yourself. And there's zero wrong with that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got? Let's move on off of this stuff and we'll hit yours.
I've got Salt-N-Pepa. You know them from this big hit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Salt-N-Pepa with In Vogue back in the day.
Well, Salt's real name is Sandra Denton. I had no idea.
Me either.
Anyways, times must be tough. She was on a Southwest flight just with the normal peasants. Things aren't like they were in the 90s.
I guess not.
And she had a injury to her knee back in 2018 that I guess was still bothering her. And so she had not a cast on her knee, but a brace. So to help with that, she bought 2 seats on the Southwest flight.
Okay.
So in case her knee gets stiff, she can stretch it out in this second seat.
Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. If you're going to pay for that extra seat, have at it. That's yours.
So she's boarding the flight. She has these 2 seats that she's bought, and the people in charge are like, "No, you can't have that seat." And she's like,
"I paid for it."
"Why? I paid for it."
Right.
And they're like, "Yeah, but you're not wearing a cast."
Don't care. I paid for this seat regardless. If I have an invisible friend and I paid for this seat, then I get my seat. Yeah.
So they're like, she stirred up such a stink. So they're like, "Fine, you can have it." Well, then I guess people keep boarding the flight, and then there's this man that comes on board, and he wants to take that seat that she has reserved for herself. And she asks if she can have it, and she's like, "No, like I
paid for this seat.
I bought this seat." And so she started recording because I guess the guy wouldn't let up. Then the people in charge are not letting up, and so she was ushered off the flight.
She got ushered off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
she was told that she needed to. She was removed, and she said she's going to look into legal options.
Sure.
The only thing I can think of is with Southwest, it's first come first serve with seats. So if she might have had no issues if she decided that she bought the 2 seats and she sits in the back.
Right.
But if she's taking her own seat in the front and then taking an empty seat in the front, then someone who wanted to sit towards the front doesn't get that.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, technically, she has bought a position on the plane. So theoretically, if she had like boarding, like say, you know how you get the boarding C A1, A2, A3. Mm-hmm. If she had 2 boarding numbers, she should be able to keep whatever seat she wants. There. I get the argument you're making because there's an invisible person there in essence, and so this guy would see and go, "Why can't
selfish,
entitled or whatever?"
Yeah.
Why can't I sit there? And then it becomes an issue more so. It's like, dude, don't make an issue of this. Like, if she bought the seats, that's hers, and like the problem is they oversell flights, and they do that on purpose to mitigate their cost because people don't show up or whatever. So to the flight attendants, they're looking at it and going, well, there is a seat here, so we could put this extra person on, But it's not like they're losing anything because she paid money.
Right, she paid for the money. I don't think so. I think what it comes down to probably, and I don't know, is just I'm assuming that she wanted 2 seats towards the front, and she got them. And then there was this man who was he was going to a funeral. Maybe he had a quick turnaround,
right.
And he wanted to sit towards the front, and she refused to move towards the back.
Right.
That's all I can think of.
But at that point, if I'm on that flight, though, I go, all right, well, you're a psycho, and I move on, and I go find a seat. And if I'm upset, fine, but I go find another seat. I don't sit there and argue it out with somebody because you're going to hold the plane up, and it's just like people's entitledness or whatever. It's going to happen. I'll talk to the person next to me about it for sure, probably the whole flight. But I'm not getting kicked off of a flight, and I certainly don't think she should have been kicked off. So,
no, I agree.
It'll be interesting to see. But she probably was a little belligerent too.
And started recording. It just wasn't good.
You should have the right to record. I'm recording for my own protection at some point, you know. I don't think that's wrong at all.
Southwest said that they didn't feel safe flying with her.
Oh my gosh.
She had a brace on her knee.
That's what people use. I hate when people use the system to get their own way. It's not a safety thing, but you use that because, you can get away with it. It's kind of like how people hide behind anxiety. Like they know that if they say this, you can't argue with it anymore. And you're triggering me. You're giving me anxiety. It's like for people that have really, really bad anxiety. Yeah, that's true. And I get it. And God bless you. That's hard. But the people that use it, it really disgusts me when you use it to your advantage, and you don't really suffer from that. I have no tolerance for that, but they know you can't argue with that. So same thing. We didn't feel safe. You can't argue with that because you're on a plane with everybody else and we're responsible for their safety. Everybody just have a soda, get some chips, shut up, and let's get to where we're going. Oh boy. All right. That's going to do it for your Aftercast for today. Did you have any birthdays?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't think you did. I'm sorry.
No, we got 2 of them.
Oh, well, let's definitely do them.
Melissa, the other Wally Show historian, as she calls herself, she wants to wish her dad, Bob, a happy birthday. He said he is amazing. He's a great dad and always there for my siblings and I. And then we've got an anonymous person who wants to wish their brother Caleb a happy birthday. Said he's really into football. Please tell him, even though I hate football, I love him.
Oh, that's nice. There you go.
So there you go, Caleb.
Gavin, can you look up the definition of anagram? Is anagram a word that's spelled the same forward and backwards? I can't remember. I remember from The Simpsons.
Is anagram?
Anagram.
Anagram?
Anagram.
But it's not going to be spelled.
Or anagran?
It's not going to be spelled the same way.
Okay, then Google, what is it called, a word that's spelled the same forward and backwards? Like Bob. Bob is B-O-B and forward's B-O-B backwards. I think it's called an anagram.
Word spelled the same backwards as forwards.
Yes.
Is a palindrome.
Palindrome. See, that's why I asked, because I did not know.
Because race car.
Yes, exactly. I remember that from the Simpsons, but I could not remember because I was going to say, Bob, you're a great anagram, but you are a palindrome.
An anagram is a phrase or name formed by rearranging the letters of another.
Of a word. Okay, so but not forward and backward.
Rearranging cinema to be Iceman is there.
Got it. Okay,
example.
Well, there you go. See, I don't know everything, and so I wanted to know. I wasn't pretending to know.
Thank you.
I have to fact check myself now because Betty Rock will get me every time.
Heaven forbid you fact check yourself.
I know. It's a lot of work, actually. It's almost a full-time job. All right, that's going to do it for your Aftercast for today. Thanks for being a potty.
Growing up in poverty has never been easy for children, but with the added challenges of the pandemic, conflict, and natural disasters, families around the world are facing an unprecedented food crisis. Unfortunately, those who are already hungry are now even more desperate. But by sponsoring a child through compassion, you can help provide life-sustaining essentials such as food and clean water. And with your compassionate support, that child can not only survive, but also flourish. You can find out how and choose a child to sponsor when you click on the compassion banner at wayfm.com.